I'm here to talk about Ubuntu. I think lots of you have probably heard me talk about Ubuntu. Lots of you have probably experienced some of that. Anybody here who's not come across that word before? Okay. I don't remember not knowing about Ubuntu. I also don't remember being taught Ubuntu because I wasn't taught it like this. I don't know if you can learn it like this. I hope you can. I think I learned it like that. So Ubuntu is a hard word to translate. It's not really a word. I mean, it is a word, but it's a whole philosophy. It's in every real African language. And I think it's what the world's missing. So people who look like me went to Africa and took its gifts. They took the oil, the minerals, the gold, the diamonds, the people. But they left probably the most valuable thing, which is Ubuntu. They left that. And sadly, what I've realized over the last few years, when we've been doing work with people from all over the world, is that a lot of people in Africa also don't know what Ubuntu is anymore. Because it has become very westernized. And a lot of the young Africans that we've worked with in youth groups and international exchanges and stuff, they want to be rap stars. They want to be gang leaders. They want to have big, fast cars. They're not having these conversations really anymore. Some of them are, and some of them are developing into those things. So I think that Ubuntu is probably the most valuable thing that Africa has to offer the planet. And it feels weird when I'm talking to people that still live in the village. The villages don't look like that now, but still live in the village, and they're going, what is this, Robin? What are you talking about? It feels a bit weird that I'm trying to train them. And then I remember that by some definitions, if I want to, I can say I'm an African. I was born there. I didn't stay there for long, like I said. I'd moved. And I went to Scotland, where my dad's family are from, and found that there are similar things in the culture there. My dad's family are Catholics, Irish and Scottish Catholics. That whole thing about treat others like you want to be treated, do unto others as you would have done to yourself, all of those kind of sayings are very similar, but Ubuntu takes it that little bit further. I mean, I've had a young person, well, you know the thing about treat people how you want to be treated, and this young person goes, well, I self-harm. Should I go around cutting everyone? Obviously not. So what does that saying mean? You shouldn't really treat people how you want to be treated if you don't know how they want to be treated unless you can engage with them, unless you can get to know them, unless you can connect with them. So Bob was talking about 3 C's, wasn't he? I can't remember what they were. What were they, Dion? Competence. Congruence. There's something within Ubuntu that you could say is courage, compassion, and connection. Another 3 C's for you. We like to keep it in 3s. It's nice and easy. I think that connection, and me and Sarah have had this conversation many times, and I've had it with many, many different therapists as well. I feel that connection is the thing that makes the difference. She's a very good therapist. To do the work that she's done in the settings that she's worked in, not everybody can do that. She hasn't got a PhD yet, am I right? We're almost on the way to do, yeah? But there are therapists who might have 5 or 6 PhDs who can't work with some of the people that you've worked with because they don't have that feeling of mutual connection. So yeah, best described as a philosophy in every African language. It roughly translates as a person is a person through other people, but the definition I prefer is I am because we are, and because we are, I am. I need you. You need me. We can't really exist without each other. If I was living in isolation, I would die. And that literally, I mean, it sounds horrific, but experiments have been done where they've brought babies up in isolation. They die without love. They die without connection. It's weird. It's the one thing that we need, and it's the one thing that makes the difference, and it's the one thing that's really lacking. Now, we don't know each other that well, do we, Sharon? We've met in a situation a bit like this where I was talking and you were listening, and before I went into that room, I knew that we would have a connection. Before I knew you. I didn't know you existed before I went into that room. I never saw a list of names. But I walked into that room in my heart knowing that whoever's in that room I'm connected with. And we've had, often teachers will say things that happened just before Christmas. How did you create that connection so quickly with the young people? And I say, I didn't create it. They go, no, we were there, we saw it, we felt it, Robin. We saw what happened, we were in the room with you. You created the connection. And I went, no, I didn't. I acknowledge it. I know it's there. So Bob was talking, we were all humans. I think Keanu mentioned it earlier on when you were checking in about being a human being. So that gives us some insight into who you are and how you are. So I didn't know Keanu when she was born. Not that long ago. How old are you now? That makes me ancient. I'm 56 nearly. But I do know that when Keanu first started to try... What?
Thank you. That's it. Being ancient at 56.
Is that, sorry, how old are you?
You look like
You can whisper.
16. No, I'm
How old are you?
I'm the same.
How old are you? 56?
Yeah.
So we're the elders in the room.
Yeah, and I'm 56.
Oh, so we're the elders in the room. So I told you we had connection. I told you. I know things
Do you want me to
about
bring the
Keanu.
blankets? Do you want me to bring the blankets?
A tartan one to put over our knees. So I know that when Keanu first started to learn to walk, even though I didn't know her then, that she was shit. She fell over loads of times and she was terrible at it. So were you, so was I. We all were, we've got that in common. We know that without knowing each other. What I also know is that she didn't give up because I've seen you walk. I know that you didn't sit on the floor going, oh, all those other humans are so much better than me and why I'm a useless baby and I don't know, I'll never be able to do it like them. And you didn't do that because you had connection. You had a family around you going, you can do it. Come on, you'll be all right. You had support. You were nurtured. And I recognise not everybody can walk. I'm not picking on those people in any way, shape or form. But the fundamental meaning of Ubuntu is that everything that we learn or experience in this world is through our relationships with others. Even though, and this is the paradox of it all, the definition of Ubuntu really means that there are no others. I am you, you are me. We're the same. We don't look the same, we don't weigh the same, we don't smell the same, we have different shades, different hues. Us humans come in all different hues. So sometimes we're called to examine our actions and thoughts, not just for what they achieve for me, for ourselves, but how do they impact others that we are in contact with? And that's what all of you have expressed an interest in. You're not saying, what's in it for me? Some people do say that when we say, do you want to come to a course? And they go, well, what's in it for me then? Like, what? You're part of that community, aren't you? What happens if you nurture your community and nurture the junior people in your community and give them respect and love and compassion and connection? You become part of a better community. Yeah, that bit about doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. I hear all kinds of other horrible shit in that. Because some people don't love themselves and don't want to be treated well and don't think they deserve it and doubt themselves and don't feel connected and don't feel part of the bigger unity that is within community. That's a stock image. If you Google Ubuntu, that's the image that will normally come up. And that's what every village used to do with its children every day. Sit down. Sometimes they'd put another ring around that ring of the adults. But the children are at the heart of the community. That's one of our circles. That's a circle we did in Waltham Forest College as part of a East Side Story that we did. So Ubuntu is a philosophy. But to have it is deeper than that. The way that we live, the way that we walk and talk, the way that we interact with people, the way we enter into discussions, the way we are in the world reflects on whether or not we have Ubuntu within us, whether we acknowledge it. So somebody with Ubuntu would be considerate when they're out in the world, would be considerate of others while they're there, because they recognize the infinite worth of every single human, even when those humans doubt it themselves, which sadly in the work that we're all interested in is normally the starting point. Nobody gives money out to do community projects to work with people who are lovely and happy and getting on with their lives. We start from a point of problem, a point of deficit, mainly in this country, sadly. There's so many examples of it. And I can remember, and there's an example coming to me. I don't tend to prepare a speech. I think we said earlier over there that we work with what emerges. I trust myself subconscious, and I trust myself, and I trust myself to respond in the right way in every moment. Which could mean that I'm never ready, totally unprepared, and haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Or could mean that I'm okay in every circumstance, because I trust myself and I trust everybody else, because you are me and I am you. I can remember quite a long time ago, and lots of you have maybe heard this story, I don't know, coming home from work. Around this time of year, it was dark. And I got home and I emptied my pockets. I usually put my keys on the side and my phone on the side. And Sharon, my lovely wife, said, "Here, could you go and get us some milk? Here's £2. So I put the £2 in my hand and I left my house and walked from my house. There's an alleyway that takes me to a shop. About halfway down that alleyway is a street lamp. As I got to the street lamp, this group of boys came around the corner. I think there were 7 of them. And the hoods went up, and you know what I do for a living. I was like, okay, I know what's happening. Can I outrun a group of 7, 16, 17-year-olds? Probably not. Have I got anything worth stealing? I've just left it all at home. I've got £2 in my hand. So I kept walking. And I got to about where the street lamp is. And the biggest one of the group, with his hood up, you know when they pull it real tight? He's just stepped forward and started to pat me down. So I'm standing there like this with £2 in my hand while he's patting me down. And when he'd finished, his head came up and he said, "What you got for me, bruv?" And I looked him in the face and said, "Nothing but love. Are you okay? You seem a bit desperate. What's going on for you?" But by which point, his boys had gone and legged it. They ran. But I know who they are. I said to him, the big guy stayed, and I said, "Does your mum know you're doing this?" And he went, "What are you talking about my mum for?" And I went, "You live at number 27. I remember when you were born, mate. I've lived in this house a long time. I know your mum." And he ran. But because I have Ubuntu in my heart, the next day, when I was coming home from work, I drove along the same road, the same route. I saw them. I know who they are. I know where they hang about. So I pulled up in my car, got out, and they all ran away again, except for the big guy. And we had probably a 2-hour conversation about what the hell are you doing? And I asked him questions. I think I said to him, "What was going on yesterday? And what was that about?" And it was somebody was after them for money. They owed him some money for some drugs. And he was going to kill them unless they got the money that afternoon, that evening. And I said, what would you have, like, if you come up to me and said, "Hello, I know you live in my road. We're in a bit of trouble. Someone's after us. Have you got any money you could lend me? Because he's going to injure me if you don't lend me the money." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I might have gone back home and got you some money." I think I said to him, "How much would have been okay? Like if I'd had £3.50, is that enough? Did you need £42? Did you need £55? And he said, "No, we needed 45 quid. That sounds like a little thing. I got into a conversation with him about who he wants to be. So when are you going to stop this? Like, do you plan to be doing this when you're 30? When you're 40? When does it become not okay? Now, Aaron and James, who are handling all the audio-visual stuff today, met this guy briefly in the street not so long ago. Do you remember? We were walking past the office in Mayfair, and we were just walking, and I looked, and he's there. He's working security. I knocked on the door and he came out and gave us a hug. He's now 28, he's a father, living with his wife and his mum. He had a moment, not just with me, but he had a moment where he was able to feel connected to something more than just, I've got to get some money for this guy. So his life had shifted somehow. And I believe that it's connection that does that. So it's not just about how we behave, it's a way of being in the world. And it's been said millions of times that we are human beings, we're not human doings. We've got things that we need to do and things we need to get on with. But if we can choose our way of being, that has an impact on how we can then do the things. Most people are, like you were talking earlier on, weren't you, about some people that are just there doing their job. They're just doing the job for the money. They're not really thinking about how they're being in the world. How are they connecting with people? What feelings are they engendering or promoting? What direction are they traveling in? Who are they traveling with? How are they traveling? And when we enter into the world considering those things, how do you think that alters how we feel? How does that change things? If I'm in the world thinking about what do I need to provide to make your life better, to make your journey a bit smoother, how can Dion help me to ensure because we're connected, it's not just a one-way process, I am you, you am I. It changes something deep. And I think that if we can make this happen in East London, that's a start. If we can make this happen more in London, that would be a growth. If we can transfer this through the internet and film and all of those things wider, it makes a huge impact. And the circle that we sat in is key to Ubuntu. It's part of this connection. What Bob was talking about earlier about youth and community, you know the saying about it takes a village to raise a child. A lot of people don't know the rest of that saying. You're nodding because you know it. That if that child is not initiated fully into the heart of the village, it will burn it down to feel a little warmth. That's what's happened. We've separated young people, we've marginalised them, pushed them to the fringes of society. Said, no, this is a community centre over here. You're not allowed, you've got a youth centre. Go to your youth centre where you've got table tennis and orange squash. I know some youth centres are much better than that. But the community centres where we've got a climbing wall and a swimming pool and all of that stuff, but you can't come in because you've got your own building. If we feel connected to a community, if we feel that we're as important as everybody else in that community, I feel valued, I feel valuable, Dion feels included, Simone feels that she's relevant, I think we build like a protective skin. We become far less likely to ever need the help of somebody like Sarah. People that are feeling disenfranchised, marginalised, not connected, are far more likely to end up needing some professional support or medication or incarceration in either mental health or crime. That's what I believe is missing from society. The feeling of belonging. It's what the gang gives them on a plate. You want to feel connected? You want to feel valued and valuable? You want an income? You want a name? You want some stated goals and aims and direction? I'll give it to you right now, a gang leader will say. And people respond because it's missing from their life. They welcome it. He's the only one who gives me respect. He's the only one who gives me food. Why would you leave that? Unless you can feel part of something else. And what I've heard today and in the other conversations that we've all had is that you have Ubuntu. All of you do. Otherwise you would not be here. You couldn't be here because you'd be going, what, Saturday? Nah, I want to be doing my own thing. I'll go and spend some of that money I'm earning. So that interconnectedness, recognizing that each individual is part of a larger community and that our actions impact others. But that sense of belonging, shared purpose, is what gives us that kind of, I can be me now. I'm okay, because I'm part of something. Collective well-being is a core principle of Ubuntu. So focusing on the collective good, how can individual growth contribute to the overall success of us? And encouraging people to support and uplift. You know, you've heard of tall poppy syndrome. There's a saying, I think it's an Australian thing, isn't it? I don't know. In a field of poppies, there's always one poppy that grows the tallest. And in communities, there might be one individual that grows the tallest, and that's the one that lots of people just want to chop it down. Rather than going, oh, could you show us and encourage us and nurture us to become as big and successful at being a poppy as you are? But we have to uplift each other if we want our community to thrive. Not blame people and marginalise them and lock them up and take them away and give them a curfew and a tag and punish them. I was sitting in a room in Tower Hamlets, not very far away from here, just before, maybe 6 weeks before Christmas. They're looking at a whole new youth engagement strategy, and all the senior leaders were there, and the head of police for, I think it's Tower Hamlets and Newham and Waltham Forest, anyway, very senior policeman there, who kept talking about young offenders. And when we did a little breakout exercise, he came and sat on my table and started to talk about young offenders again. And I said, do you want them to keep offending? And he said, no. I said, why are you calling them young offenders? What if they believe you? And his face looked like a bit like, whoa, he'd never thought that. That if they take you're a young offender, oh, okay, yeah, I'm a young offender, they're more likely to re-offend. We could call them young people who made mistakes, or young people who committed an offence. Doesn't mean that they become offenders. The truth is that senior policeman has also probably offended. He's probably done 31 in a 30, or gone through a red light, or forgotten to tap out of the DLR. He's done something wrong. Nobody labels him for it. We have a shared responsibility, promoting a sense of shared ownership over all of our growth and development, encouraging participants to contribute all of their unique skills, all of their attributes, all of their perspectives. They're all valuable. I don't want to live in a world where everybody has the same way of being and the same way of looking at stuff. Everybody's as valid as everybody else. Even if we disagree, it's okay. So the circle is core to that process. It's core to bringing people together. Any team that you've ever been in, I'm not in very many football teams and basketball teams and any of those sort of teams, but they often get together in a circle, don't they, before the match and do that type of thing to get them going. The circle does something. Bob spoke about it earlier. Like, some of my ancestry is Celtic. So if you go up into the northern Scotland and up into the Orkney Islands and stuff, you'll find stone circles. Thousands, older than the pyramids. Stonehenge, the one that me and Bob went to was Avebury. You been to Avebury? It's beautiful. The circles are magical. The line and the circle were the two original symbols, male and female. It wasn't a zero then, it was a circle. It brings us together. Active listening and feedback that demonstrates understanding and validation of each participant's experience. But no contribution is better than any other. I spoke about in that circle there, when that person took the ball and didn't say anything for hours, that's as valuable as somebody who talked for 2 hours and didn't give the ball back. I learned a lot from that silence. So did they. It's powerful. Shared reflection and celebration is core to Ubuntu. Opportunities for participants, for the village, for your neighbours, your family, your friends, everybody to reflect on their growth and achievements and celebrate this collective progress. So it's not my progress at your expense. Like, I want to get rich, but for me to get rich, you've got to be poor. That's not Ubuntu. We can all be rich. We can all be valuable. We can all be valid and included. Ubuntu.